And
I
then
I think
watched that.
everybody waited it for it to come on Disney Plus. Like I've seen so many people go, "I'm glad I waited to watch it." I'm like, okay.
did everybody watch any of Peacemaker?
I didn't watch any of Peacemaker,
I watched all of them.
but you guys saw Spider-Man, right? Everybody's
Yes.
seen
Talk about
Spider-Man
that.
now, so we can talk about
I
Spider-Man.
will say that I'm actually thought I was gonna hate Peacemaker.
I did too. I was fully prepared to be like, this is bullshit.
I actually kind of like it. It's kind of like Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm sure I'll like it when I watch it. I started watching that Beatles Get Back documentary, and that's 6 hours long, and that's all I've watched this weekend.
That's a commitment.
It's good though.
Yeah, I've
You see how great a guy Ringo Starr is, and what a whiny little bitch George Harrison is. And how Paul McCartney at the end was running the Beatles.
They said first.
Let's talk about the Eternals first.
All right.
Because that would be the shorter of the two.
Gotcha. Sure. All right, on this episode, we're going to talk about the new Spider-Man movie. Is it Coming Home? Is that the name of it?
No Way Home.
No Way.
No Way Home.
They all have a home in the title, so I can
that's the whole thing.
Homecoming,
Far from Home, No Way Home.
So anyway, Chip, what'd you think of it?
I thought it was probably one of the best Marvel movies yet. I just really liked it. I like all the old Spider-Man movies, so the way they incorporated everything, and I like him as Spider-Man. I just thought overall it was great. All the callbacks, and I'm old, so I'm a sucker for nostalgia. You throw some nostalgia at me, and it's nostalgia that I like, and I'm gonna just wholly buy into it.
Right. Remember berries.
Yeah.
What'd you think of it, Sarah?
So I went into watching this movie like I wasn't going to probably like it as much, because I've never really been into Spider-Man. I've seen some of the older ones just because, those are some of the only comic movies that of those time periods, that kind of thing. And I didn't really expect to enjoy it as much as they did. But honestly, absolutely loved it. I love that William Dafoe was in it. I love that they brought back the older villains. And what's even better about it, which is entirely different from some of the other Spider-Man movies, is the whole idea of redemption. So they weren't trying to destroy the bad guys. He was trying to redeem them. He was trying to fix them. Obviously, something's wrong with them. They were broken. And so what did he do? He basically, Tom Holland's character, Spider-Man's character, reversed all the stuff and made them basically who they were before they were basically poisoned with these evil experiments and things that they did to themselves. Except everybody was cool with it, just about, except for Jamie Foxx's character obviously wanted his powers, and then I can't remember the guy who played the lizard guy.
He's a Welsh actor. I know you're talking about Connor. He's Dr. Connors, his name.
Yeah, Dr. Connors.
Yeah.
And
he's got a reptilian brain. You can't really reason with him. So,
Yeah, but it was really nice. And I loved how the Toby Maguire, right?
Yes.
And then what's the other spider? Gavin. Andrew Garfield. Okay. So they were both there, and I liked how their MJs were all different. Obviously one was Gwen and one was actual MJ, and then they kind of lived through that, and then they like family, or like imparting their wisdom upon Tom Holland, and I like how they were there, and they had good rapport with each other. They had good understanding. They worked well together, and it was interesting to see how it all kind of melded together. And what's even better, I mean, I guess for Sony, because now Sony is going to take this and run with it, is they basically at the very end of this movie, and spoilers, guys, they just refreshed the whole franchise with the current cast. So everybody forgets who Tom Holland is.
Get a new movie.
They're going to go to college.
Yeah.
And nobody knows who he is. And he has to win back MJ. And become friends with his friends again because literally they forgot he existed.
Well, basically what it is like they even though they are from their individual multiverses, they're basically the evolution of Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire is the 60s Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield is the ultimate Spider-Man from the Ultimate Universe. And then Tom Holland is the new Spider-Man from the current comics. Because, you know, before Civil War and all of that, Spider-Man got the Iron Spider costume. He, you know, his secret identity was let out. And then there was an actual comic arc called Brand New Day, where all of that, he gets rid of all of that. He gives the devil one day, the devil takes the day that he married Mary Jane, and that just takes everything, you know, just changes everything. So I liked how, because anybody who's into Spider-Man, and I like Spider-Man, but I'm not like a huge Spider-Man fan. Like our friend Alan is a huge Spider-Man fan. He's read like every Spider-Man. You know, you can talk to him about it and he knows, you know, he's got all of them. And but I just really enjoyed that. And then I really liked the Andrew Garfield movies. I thought the second movie was a total train wreck because they tried to cram so much stuff into one movie, but I still liked it and I still wanted to see more of those movies because that's the one Spider-Man I've read all of is the Ultimate Comic Spider-Man, and I really enjoyed that, you know. So I thought it was great the way they set it up. And also they had the situation where they had a Spider-Man who didn't have a secret identity. He was too closely aligned with the Avengers. He had all the tech. He had everything. He had all this technology, and they had to take all that away from him to once again make him the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, which is what they did at the end.
Right.
And
so
what's
the
funny,
end of this one felt very much like the end of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2. You know, where he kisses MJ and then jumps out the window, and you know, felt kind of very similar.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was funny is the joke between them about how do they get the web fluid, and how Tobey Maguire, he goes, I don't know, I just make it. And they're like, what? It comes out of you?
That was funny.
Like, how does that come out of you, man?
Does it come out of you anywhere else? No. I like the youth pastor comment too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
other
that
than
was
this,
good.
you know, what is it? Cool youth pastor look you got going. Do you actually have your uniform?
Yeah, they were great together, all those scenes. When I was a little kid, before I really got into comics, Spider-Man was the first thing that I read the most of. You know, so I was into Spider-Man, and then when I got into, you know, comics more in general, I still sort of read it, but not as much. You know, I got into other ones and sort of, so it was like, in a lot of ways, that and Batman were the two, Spider-Man and Batman were the two things I read when I was younger, like, you know, like as a little kid, you know. And they had a couple, they had like Spidey, you know, they had some.
Well, they had the Spidey comics, which were the Kitty comics that were co-produced with the Electric Company.
Right, exactly. So there was all that kind of stuff. But I agree. I thought their scenes together were fantastic. Tom Holland really did a good job in this. I mean, he, you know, and the movies, I can remember when the first one came out with Tobey Maguire, that was a really big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was the first really, for Marvel, I mean, you had the Batman movies, but this was the first.
Blade.
And you had Blade, that's right, true. And he actually, on one of the promos, he swung between the two towers, and they did away with, and of course they pulled that because it was like 9/11 was right around that same time. And so the first two are great. I mean, well, the first one's good. Second one with Tobey Maguire was really good. The third one, it goes off the rails when they bring Venom in and all that. It just sort of
it was the same thing. That Spider-Man 3 was the same as Amazing Spider-Man 2. They tried to cram too much into one movie. I mean, because Sam Raimi was ready to make a fourth one, and he kept going, and they kept asking for all this ridiculous stuff to be in the movie, and he's just like, "I'm not doing this," and just found something else. They just wander off and find something else to do.
I think there's a lot of movies like that. I thought The Eternals was like that. There's a lot of stuff I think where they try to shove. It's almost like they have all these rewrites, and different people chime in the process, and you have all these people wanting to add stuff, and you're like. Definitely some of the Star Wars movies. Had that. The
new Star Wars movies, the sequels, the prequels. The prequels are 100,000% George Lucas's fault. He had complete and utter creative control. He was totally in control of the studio. Nobody gave him notes. That was 100% him.
Right.
New ones. I'm sure there was a bunch of fucking.
Solo was a good. Like I was saying, Solo to me has a lot. There's just all this stuff.
Solo had so many problems.
Yeah, and
because
rights and people putting notes. So you'll see things that pop up that you think are, that you kind of see that in a lot of them, where you can tell in the editing process they wound up taking some stuff out. But
The Rise of Skywalker was pretty good with Rey. That's the one with Rey in it.
I can't remember.
Which one is the one with Rey?
Are you just saying that for me to make a face for the promo? I mean, is that because you said that so deadpan, like you really meant it? And you really couldn't have meant that.
What's the one?
They're so easy to get, though.
What's the second one? Is that the second one?
The second one is The Last Jedi, and that's the worst.
The Last Jedi. That was.
Well, that's when they hired an edgy director to disrupt it, because that's what I want in my Star Wars is disruption. I want the thing that I watched since I was 6 years old. I want you to disrupt that, please. Can you change that? Just throw it all the
shit on. We need to shit on the main character.
You gotta turn it on its head.
Let's shit on the main character. No one will expect this.
Those movies don't even. I mean, the best one was really Rogue One, and it was such a straight ahead story they never messed with it.
Right.
But like you were talking about Solo, so Solo was originally being directed by Lord and Miller, the guy who made Lego Movie and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and they're very much in the moment. Hey, ad lib, be funny. And the problem is Lawrence Kasdan wrote that screenplay. Lawrence Kasdan is like an old school, old Hollywood writer. And he's like, no, you don't ad lib my stuff. You say exactly what's on the page and all of that. So then what's her name? Kennedy that runs Star Wars now got scared. And they're like, who's the safest director we can absolutely get? Hey, Ron Howard's available. And him and Lawrence Kasdan are, all of the same ilk, and they're of the same Hollywood. So he came in and made that straight ahead movie, but who knows how much they changed, because they had to take people out. Like Paul Bettany's character was an add-in because the guy who had originally played that part was going to be motion captured, and he was going to be like this part cat type person as the bad guy, and they had to take him completely out and bring Bettany in because that guy couldn't come back for reshoots.
Oh.
So there's all kinds of weird things that went on with that movie that, and then of course No Way Home.
One of those movies that has too much going on.
Well, and then No Way Home has these issues because they had original ideas because the Multiverse of Madness was supposed to come out before this movie.
Right.
Back. So that changed. They had to do reshoots around some of that stuff. So, it's all kind of weird. We're still seeing all the COVID effects in the movies. It's going to be 5 more years before we get a movie that's purely just made. That didn't have to change any timeline. They didn't have to change anything in the movie.
Right. I was seeing if it was the same director.
I mean, you can't get all these great characters, all those CG characters and all the new ones, like the Jar Jar Binkses and all of those really interesting guys like that.
You're just trolling me now, so I'm not having any more of it.
So it was the same director.
I'm sorry.
Watts has done all the Spider-Man movies.
He's done these 3.
These 3, yeah.
Well,
Jar Jar Binks was the worst.
Yes,
We're back to Spider-Man now. We've left Star Wars behind. We're back on Spider-Man. Come on, come with us.
Yeah, for this trilogy, I really enjoyed the first. I thought the second was a little
The second one was good, but I've never wanted to watch it a second time. Like I've never cared. I don't know what it is about it. I've never cared enough to go back and watch it again. And I watch almost all of those movies multiple times.
I rewatched it right before I saw this one, and yeah, it's you know, I didn't like.
I haven't seen all of those in years.
I didn't like what's his face as the as Mysterio.
Weirdo boy, yeah. Gyllenhaal.
I didn't.
Oh, Jake Jill. Yeah, I didn't like him either.
I didn't really, and it was a little just the whole.
And he's the one who really revealed who Spider-Man was to the world, anyway.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't like when they do like they did with Iron Man 3 with the Mandarin. I don't like when they do one of those fake.
When they they flip, because Mysterio was such a great bad guy back in the Ditko.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of the
original,
and instead of, and we've already had in this universe, we've had crazy enough things to where you would believe, okay, then that villain could fit in. But so I don't like when they do that sort of like I said, it's like Scooby-Doo when you're like, oh, it's a projector, it all has that sort of, and which is kind of what that felt like to me.
I never thought about that, but yeah, it's very much a kind of a Scooby-Doo moment.
There was some of the acting was great because they all have a nice chemistry, and they've built it up over 3 movies. And so that stuff was still kind of nice in that one. This one though, they really kind of put it all together.
Yeah, they kind of.
Really,
I mean, just go back at the character progression from the different Spider-Man like franchises. I guess you call them the different little 3 movies and the different actors. If you look at him, he keeps getting softer. And you look at the Tom Holland character of must redeem, can't kill anybody, where Spider-Man used to just try to, get him out, that kind of thing. Like all these superheroes ultimately against the bad guy's going to die at some point. That's like your expectation. And then you get to this Tom Holland kind of series of Spider-Man where we can save him. It doesn't matter, how many people die in the process of trying to save this one bad guy. And that's something I don't get that. Like all those people did die ultimately because he didn't feel like he could send them back without fixing them, because they were going to die, because ultimately that's what happened in their time to that person.
But the only person that died was Aunt May, and she was the one that encouraged him to do it. So
well, no, because when they were fighting like the cops and stuff, cops died. When they crashed into buildings, through cars, civilians died. Like there's no way that she's the only casualty in all of this. Right. And so that's something I didn't like. And then I didn't like how Doctor Strange was, because sometimes I felt like he was out of character for Doctor Strange, and then they kind of throw him back into it. I didn't full on feel like he was being Doctor Strange so much as he was just filling a gap for this movie.
The thing is like Doctor Strange in the comics is an arrogant ass. I mean, he's from the beginning, he was the arrogant surgeon who could do no wrong. And he's always been very arrogant, and he always gets himself in trouble, even in the comic books, by being arrogant and over, and thinking he can do more than he can do. So for him to be like this, and then also for him, the whole thing of, he's the sorcerer supreme, so he's over everything.
Right.
And so the world is more important than the individual. And that's how he's always going to go. And he's like, yeah, they die, and that's their lot in life, and they need to go back to their universe and do what they do, which is die, And
I was fully on board with that. I was like, okay, cool, let's do that. I got it. That sounds right to me. And then Tom Holland's like, no, they can be fixed. And then all this chaos and people die, and then he feels real bad about it. And then he meets all the other Spider-Man and stuff like that. And I'm just like, dude, if you would have just, people would still be alive.
Yeah, well, I mean, hindsight's 2020.
Right. I like that there was a little bit. There was certainly a little bit of a Sinister Six thing going on
Yep.
with the villains.
Yeah, one of the original story ideas was that Venom would be in it, and Venom would ultimately like because Venom's not a bad guy now, he's like an anti-hero.
Right.
That Venom would like Tom Holland would get all jacked up and really hurt and be dying, and Venom would go to him and fix him, and then he would help him defeat them.
See, I like him as a villain.
I hate Venom in general across the board, no matter if he's the good guy, the bad guy, whatever. I think it's a terrible character that came out of the crappy Secret Wars.
Right.
And I've watched the movies. I haven't spent any time reading any of the comic books, probably never will, because they're mostly 90s comics, which are mostly hot garbage. But yeah, so I could do without Venom entirely and be all just fine with it.
Yeah, I don't like Venom either. I never liked him.
I do I will admit that the movie Venom is the best Venom I've ever seen.
I agree too. And that's one of those what I was not expecting to like at all. And then I haven't seen the newest one, but the first one,
it's mediocre. If you can see it for free, sure, because it's only like an hour and a half long, which is the only, like, my daughter wanted to watch it, and I was like, yeah, we'll watch it. And I like, let's see how long it is. I'm like, oh, it's only an hour and 26 minutes. Absolutely. If it was like a 2.5 hour MCU movie, I'd be like, no, I'm not watching it.
No, I watched the first Venom. It's because Tom Hardy is Venom, and
they're
Tom Hardy's a gorgeous man.
You know, they're
That's why I'll watch
entertaining in the second one. So, you know, I think Woody Harrelson is the like most miscast person as Carnage ever.
Oh God, yes.
I didn't get that one either.
That's why I didn't watch it. Well, you guys know I say this all the time, and I think it's don't take a character like that and don't add some Hollywood actor with a whole.
Well, I kept thinking about him as the zombie. Him as either the bartender at Cheers or the guy in the Zombieland movies. I couldn't.
He did good in both of those.
Well, that's what he's good at. But I mean, that Carnage. Come on. I mean, it's like wasn't in one of them who was was it Thomas Hayden Church? What villain was he?
Sandman. He's Sandman.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I knew he was one, but which I've always liked him as an actor, but it's the same kind of thing. Don't bring in,
But the best thing about
Eternals are nothing but that, it makes me think that you don't have your driving factor in bringing those people in is their star power, not that they'll fit into that role good.
The one thing that I got to give, the reason I'll watch Thomas Hayden Church in almost anything he does is because in the movie Sideways, his character is him. Yeah, I mean, not to say that he's like this womanizer, does all this, but the description of his character and what he did in the past, as far as an actor goes, was essentially him.
Well, and
so I was like, you're playing yourself in this. It was kind of like when Neil Patrick Harris played Neil Patrick Harris in what's his name in Kumar Go to White Castle.
Yeah, Harold.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I'm like, if you're ballsy enough to do that, man, I'm gonna give you some credit.
That movie, if you get the DVD or the Blu-ray, the commentary is the two of them talking, and it's worth watching. Just because of how you can tell they enjoy each other, and it's almost like the second version of that movie, just because of their personalities.
Do you think kids nowadays know about Sideways?
No, kids have no.
Do you not think so? That's a wonderfully classic movie.
Yeah, that's even when that movie came out.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, when that movie came out, it went to. I mean, that was pretty much a cult sort of movie. I mean, it was filmed. It seems like a labor of love. Now, that kind of movie. Just because it seems like they all did that because they liked it.
And I love that movie, and I still don't drink wine, so it didn't really work on me. And I have no desire to go to San Luis.
After that movie came out, the sales of Merlot actually fell in certain areas. That's because of his whole. And my favorite is when he's chewing gum. Are you chewing there? And this is and he goes, "Are you chewing gum?" Like, that was awesome. I haven't thought about that movie in forever. Now I want to go watch it. I actually have the DVD somewhere around.
So
have
much
it on
smoking.
DVD.
I remember there's just so much smoking.
Or when he gets beat up, that whole thing. So,
Oh yeah.
gosh,
That's funny about the smoking. What is it? That's the thing. Watching that Beatles documentary, man. Those guys. I had to go make myself a cup of tea. I'm sitting there watching this and like, man, I'm really craving a cup of tea. That's all they did was drink tea and smoke.
well, and didn't
Guitar.
like in the ashtrays or whatever is where they put one of the mics or whatever, wasn't it? I know, or it was in. They had some hidden mics in there.
In an ashtray?
I think one of them was in an ashtray or in like one of those bigger, like those 70s, like it's like a component thing that has an ashtray and like wood and then a bunch of plants. I think that was one of the they're like hidden.
It's a decor choice.
That's how things were in the
self-fertilizing.
I mean,
the ashes.
I mean, just we'll just go there. I mean, like it's amazing. Like I remember when my grandmother passed away and stuff, and cleaning out their houses, and how many ashtrays they had that they had kept in their houses or they had in their houses, and then how everything included an ashtray. Everything like ashtrays were incorporated into so much furniture. It was insane.
We made ashtrays in school, like in pottery class.
I have a
you make ashtrays.
This is a Hojo ashtray that
Howard Johnson's.
My mom was like, "Hey, would you want this?" I was like, "Oh yeah,
yeah, that's cool."
So,
keep changing it now, but still,
yeah, Hojo.
All right, well, that's enough of that. So
I have a sock that's full of beans.
Oh, that you heat up in the microwave? Yeah.
I have an old sock that I put a thing of black-eyed peas in, just dried beans, and I microwave. And my son and I, Eric's like, I'm cold, I'm getting the bean sock. Like it's a normal thing. He told somebody about it. They were like, a bean sock? What the heck is that?
Nice.
That's pretty funny.
It probably works. Don't go up there.
It's great. You heat it up and you throw it in the foot of the bed. Warms up your little cold toes. You get cold, you go heat up the bean sock. You put it in your sweatshirt. Instant heat. Heat it up for a minute. Stays hot.
So you could have that. You could have the dry black-eyed peas for heat, and then you can put black-eyed peas in the freezer and use that if you need a cold compress. And you could have black-eyed peas as your like